Our gospel reading this morning comes to us from Matthew chapter 22. Listen now for the word of the Lord. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap Jesus in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with truth, and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then, what do you think? Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius. And then he said to them, "Whose head is this, and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Then he said to them, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Some trick questions for you this morning. What has a thumb and 4 fingers but isn't alive? What has a thumb and 4 fingers but isn't alive? A glove. A glove. How do you make the number 1 disappear? How do you make the number 1 disappear? You add the letter G to it and it's gone. I know. Okay, another one. You ready? A girl fell off a 50-foot ladder but didn't get hurt. How come? Some of you may be saying this. She fell off the bottom step. All right, listen closely to this one. If you have one, you want to share it. But once you've shared it, you do not have it. What is it? If you have one, you want to share it, but once you share it, you do not have it. What is it? You ready? A secret. Yeah. If I tell you the secret, then it won't be a secret, right? Yeah. All right. These are different kinds of trick questions. And they're really kind of more like, those were kind of more like riddles, weren't they? Just kind of brain teasers. The Pharisees asked Jesus a trick question this morning. It's a different kind of trick question. It's actually the kind of trick question that's a trap. In fact, Matthew just comes out and says it right away. The Pharisees went and plotted to entrap Jesus. There's not a lot of, question about that or mystery about their motivation. In fact, they take along with them Herodians, followers of Herod, people presumably from Herod's court. Herod was the regional ruler of that area. The only reason they would bring Herodians along with them was to get Jesus in trouble and to have witnesses for when he gets in trouble. So he could be thrown into jail, he could be punished, he could be executed, perhaps. This is a serious, serious moment in the gospel. High drama. Tell us what you think, Jesus. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not? And they really think they have him. Because he's developed quite a following at this point in Matthew's gospel, right? And of course, if he wants to please his crowd, he's going to have to say no. Don't pay your taxes. I mean, they don't like being occupied by Rome, by a foreign force, a Gentile people that exploit them, that use up their resources, make them pay taxes to do so. His followers are not going to want to hear him say, yes, we should pay the taxes. If he says, yes, we should pay the taxes, his followers are likely to just go ahead and leave him, and then problem solved, right? He doesn't have a following. We don't have to worry about him anymore. Then on the other hand, if he really takes the bait and says, no, we shouldn't pay taxes in order to please his crowd, his following, then we've got the Herodians here and we can throw him in jail. Sedition against the Roman occupation. Either way, yes, no, he's trapped. It's a trick question. There's no right answer. Unless you're God. Unless you're God, then there's always an answer that you can give, right? I mean, he tricks them back. See, because their question assumes an A or B, yes or no answer. Their question also assumes a certain political structure, a certain value structure, right? But Jesus is smarter, he's wiser, he can zoom out from that. Of course, Jesus is God. And I am going to get a little bit philosophical here, just a little bit, so please bear with me. But Jesus went there first, and we just have to follow him, right? It really has to do with the value of things. The value of things, the importance of things, the worth of things. Now, ever since I was a little kid, I loved collecting things. My wife is rolling her eyes right now at me. But it didn't matter when I was a kid, whether it was baseball cards or stamps or coins, Transformers, hey, Lego sets. Now I collect books and sometimes still baseball cards, you know. But I learned as a kid, right, and this was pre-internet, I learned as a kid that there would be book value for things, but when it came down to it, something was only worth what somebody you knew was willing to pay you for it. So the book could tell me this baseball card was worth 10, 20 bucks, but if I didn't have a friend or know somebody who was willing to give me 10 or 20 bucks for that card, it wasn't worth 10 or 20 bucks. Do you follow me? Something's only worth what somebody else is willing to give you for it. That's really important in what Jesus is saying this morning. What's something really worth? I inherited some paper money from Germany in 1920. Money printed in 1920 from Germany. It's not much, it's just like one or two bills. They're significant to me. But if I flew to Germany and took them out and tried to buy a cup of coffee with them, I couldn't use them, right? They're not in currency anymore. The money there is different than it was. If I went to a bank and asked for the exchange rate and tried to get U.S. currency for it, that wouldn't happen. It's not worth anything. I even looked on eBay just out of curiosity to see if these were collector's items, right? Is it worth anything to a collector? About $1 for a 50-cent mark. Yeah, not very much. Not worth the stamp and the time to send it to somebody. Not really worth anything from a worldly perspective, right? It has intrinsic value to me, but not monetary value. Oh, but money is important to us, isn't it? And I'll tell you, to a German in the 1920s, that money was valuable to them. Money is important. We need money. We need money to buy a loaf of bread, carton of eggs, feed ourselves, feed our families. We need money to put a roof over our heads, keep a roof over our heads. We in the church need money to climate control the room, pay staff. Money is important to us. It is. And you know, when it comes down to it, Jesus talked about money more than just about anything else. Not because money was really important to Jesus. We actually see in lots of places in the gospel, he treats money as whatever, a necessary thing, but he wasn't enamored with it. But money was important to him in conversation because he knows money's important to us. And he cares about us a lot. I mean, you want to know how casual Jesus is about money. He and his disciples in Matthew 17, his disciples need money to pay the temple tax. And he says, go drop a hook in the water over there. And they do, and they pull out a fish, and they look in the fish's mouth, and there's a coin to pay the temple tax. I mean, you see, when you're God, money's whatever. Whatever. To us, it really matters. It really matters. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will follow. And Jesus is after our hearts, so he's concerned about where we spend our time and our money, right? But the thing is, like we said, anything is only worth what we say it's worth together, right? I want you to follow me here. I'm going to get just a little philosophical, as I warned you. But money, right, is a construct. Do you know what I mean by that? It's not worth anything except for the fact that we agree it is, that we can use it to trade it for other services, things, whatever, right? Empire, nation are a construct. These are worldly things, ways that we live together, govern ourselves, try to live in peace and fairness with each other. Some people do that more earnestly than others. Some people take advantage of that more than others. But these things, these constructs, are our attempts to live together in ways that are fair and good and right. Money's a construct. Nation is a construct. God is a what? Do you see what Jesus is saying? It's really important that we understand what he's saying in his answer to the question, because he's not just finagling himself out of the trap. He's telling us something that is at its core one of the most important things that we can ever learn. The things of the world don't last. The things of the world that we put so much of ourselves into, so much of our lives into, so much of our heart into, are they the things of God or not? That's what Jesus is asking us. Whose face is on the picture of the coin? The emperor's. Fine. Let him have it. Belongs to him. I'll tell you what, if money had pictures of me on it, it wouldn't be worth anything. We put important people's pictures on money. And Caesar was supposed to be the most important person in the world. Do you know he went by the title, the Son of God? Did you know that? When Jesus came along saying he was the Son of God, there was somebody who was already saying that. Except in Jesus' case, it was true. Caesar was just pretending. And Jesus is actually calling him out. Yeah, he thinks he's important because he's got his picture on a coin? Fine. Let him have his money. Give to God what is God's. This is what I want you to hear. We can view our money or any other earthly resource like time and energy, whatever it is, whatever we have, we can view it as a tool to serve God and other people, as a means to take care of those who are important to us and to bless others. So we can view money as a tool to serve God, right? Or we can use God to try to make more money. You know what I'm talking about. You know those bargains we make with God? Oh, God, won't you just bless me? Oh, God, won't you just help me with this? We can appease God to try to get richer blessings in life, or we can use the blessings that we've been given in life to serve God and others. We can do that with our time. We can do that with our energy. We can do that with our money. What is in service to what? That's the question. Whose face is on the coin? Let him have it. Give to the emperor what belongs to the emperor, and give to God what is God's. Now, maybe you've already figured this out, but we're entering into stewardship season here at First Presbyterian Church. And we actually have a little video along the lines of what we're talking about to tell you what to expect these next couple weeks. We're starting stewardship season today, and we're going to have some familiar things for you and some new things this year. Something familiar, stewardship has always been about more than just money. And so last year, in addition to our building and general fund pledge forms, we also filled out forms pledging our participation in spiritual growth and in fellowship and in service. We returned these forms to you throughout the year to remind you of your commitments to these things.
Something a little new this year. Over the next 2 weeks, Mike's sermon will cover opportunities for us to pledge ourselves to growth, connection, and mission and service. And this year, we will actually have the pledge forms with us in our bulletins that we can fill out during Mike's sermon and turn them in each week.
Something familiar again is that Dedication Sunday will be in 3 weeks. Everyone should receive a stewardship packet in the mail before then. And Dedication Sunday, we will pledge ourselves through our financial gifts to support the general fund and the building fund of the church. You can also turn in your Connect, Grow, and Serve forms if you missed a Sunday of worship.
As some of you may know, over the past few years, our giving as a congregation has been decreasing. So something new this year, in your stewardship package, everyone will receive a sealed envelope with your own 5-year giving history. And we would ask you to prayerfully consider whether or not it would be possible for you to increase your giving in the coming year.
Thank you for your prayerful support of what God is doing in and through First Presbyterian Church. Indeed, thank you. Paul wrote to the church in Thessalonica, as we heard before, how joyful he was about the church there and how people talked about them because they had become imitators of Paul and of the Lord. They had turned from idols, right? And idols are anything that we might worship, anything that we might put in the place of God. An idol isn't a bad thing in and of itself. It becomes bad when a good thing gets put in the place of God in our lives. And we have a lot of idols in our culture, do we not? The idols of money and fame, power and pleasure, and more. They become the idol when we put ourselves in service to them, or when we put our relationship with God in service to achieve those things, rather than using what God has given us for the other way around. We can treat money as a god, as some in this day and age do. Or we can give to God what is God's. Stewardship season in the church is not a plea from the church for you to give us your money. Stewardship season in the church is an occasion to ask ourselves again, what things do I value most highly in my life? What things are most important to me? And does the way that I live, is the way that my family lives, are the things that we are putting our time and our energy and our money, other resources of life into, reflective of our values? Right? Do we have things in the order in which we'd like to have them? That's what this is about. That's what stewardship is about. Jesus shows time and time again in the Gospels that our money is not as important to him as our hearts and minds are. But again, he knows our hearts and minds go to those places where our money goes. So our time and our treasure will go where our hearts and minds are, right? So what matters most to you in this life? That's not a trick question, by the way. We can give the things that belong to Caesar, to the emperor, to the emperor. We can give the things that belong to God, to God. But what belongs to the empires of our own lives, and what truly does belong to God? That's up to each of us in our own lives to answer. Amen.